Is there any question?
Yes, Maharaj. The questions are from Izvsk. Izvsk from Russia. So they're asking that Buddhists try to realize some aspect of the soul. So is their knowledge considered to be spiritual or not? What is the difference between spiritual and material knowledge?
Seventh chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Jnanam teham savijnanam idam bhaksham yasheshata yajjatva nehabhuyanat yatavyam avasheshate. The difference between material knowledge and spiritual knowledge is one is permanent and the other one is temporary. When you say spiritual knowledge proper, it has to deal with immortality, and particularly the immortal world, the subjective world, the relative knowledge of the mundane world, the world maya, misconception, mriyate, anaya, that's which can be measured, means limited knowledge of the limited, where spiritual knowledge proper is unlimited knowledge. And that means necessarily amnaya prahatatvam, right? Harim, paramam sarva shaktim rasabdim, etc. Amnai means revealed truth, as opposed to empiric ascending knowledge. It's descending knowledge. Dhamna svena sadana rastakuakam. Dham means self-revealing. This is consistent with the concept of grace, self-illumination, self-effulgence, self-revealing. Nayam atma pravachanena labdyo namedaya na bahuna srutena tame vaisha vrinute tena labhyas tashaisha atmam vivrinute tena labhyas. Abhignasarat. Only he knows arteshu abhignasarat, and he can transfer some understanding of himself to others. Atma Prigyanamayo. Srila Guru Maharaj always begins with this point that came when he was preaching in Karachi, and one man from the audience, remember the Arya Samaj, he said, if the finite can know the infinite, he's not infinite. That's not infinite proper, right? And Guru Maharaj answered by saying, if the infinite cannot make himself known to the finite, he's not infinite. Therein lies our prospect, our sole prospect, is the infinite making itself known to the finite. That's Dhamna Sena Sadana Rastakuakam. His divine abode, luminous, illuminating, revealing, revelation, the infinite making itself known to the finite by infinite means. Acharja mam vijanayat navamanyeta karhichid. That Krishna, the Guru function is really Krishna revealing himself. And it depends on his will. Like the Nam sloka, Lakshmi Nath, quoted by Rupa Goswami. No diksham, na cha satkriyam, na purushcharjam, mana gikshite, mantroyam rasanas prageva palati. Sri Krishna namamaka. It's not remotely dependent upon anything other than the sweet will of Krishna. If Krishna wants to reveal himself. Now, Buddha is an avatar of Krishna. Therefore, he's so charming. But it's come at a point where the abuse of Vedas led to the appearance of Buddha. And although there is some concept of soul, it ultimately is a type of atheism. So we have Mahaprabhu quoting something, Mayavaram asat shastram prachtanam bodham uchite mayeva kalpitam devi hello brahmana rupina. Shiva explaining why he has to do this. And he says, what is Mayavad philosophy? Prachtanam bodham uchite. It's covered Buddhism. It's very similar. So we may acknowledge soul, the Atma, but what about Paramatma and the Paramatma world? Bhargo Bhai Vishabhanu Jatma Bhivavai Karadana Sri Puram. Guru is saying in this Gayatri, we may think that the sun illumines, reveals everything. But actually, it's Atma, without the soul to see, observe. We're back to the uncertainty principle. Observation, an observer. So really, it's the soul that reveals everything. Atma and Paramatma. He's saying, and that Paramatma, Bhargo, is an interesting word. Bhargo by Vrishabhanu, Jatma Bhivavai Karadana Sripuram. The whole spiritual world really is being illuminated by Srimati Radharani. Why is that necessarily so? Because it's the Seva Mayoyam Loka. It's all about service. Who is revealing service? She, it's as in Gurma's words, her suggestion. That what are we to understand about all this? Radha Dasya means to accept her suggestion. He used that word, we think, that Radharani's suggestions are best. So these little Atmas, these souls, what are they going to do? Sit around as, and a uniform sheet of undifferentiated consciousness in the Brahmajyoti and light up the world? Right? Soul, the soul, what is the Bhagavatam saying? Aruhya krichena param padam tatak patanti adho anadrita jasmai dangreya. If the soul neglects the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, then no matter how high they rise, no matter what system they follow, they again come down to the karmic world of action and reaction. Krishna says in the Gita, just to live, you have to do something. Right? So we've seen in India, the Jains, they're something they they wear masks, but not just to keep out pollution, but it's so that no living being will accidentally, they won't consume another living being, germs or things like that. They're trying their best not to implicate themselves in any sort of karmic activity. But as Guru Maharaj says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says in Jaiva Dharma, it's the mind that's the seed of karma, actually. So just getting the body to refrain from doing undesirable things will not be a successful strategy in extricating oneself from karmic reactions. So Rupa Goswami, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, gives the example of saying the karma beads, the seeds of karmic activity, like any seed, if you fry it, it won't sprout. So he's comparing that to the seva current. Only through seva, service connection, is the soul not implicated. Hatvapi sa imalokan nahanti nani badhyate. As Guru Maharaj took it to this, even destroying a world, a universe. Again, speaking of Mahadev, he also has to do that. He might say, why do I always get this type of seva? He asked me to preach Mayavadi philosophy, then it's time for the world, then that was the Nataraj and the, Tandava Nritya, his dance of devastation, destroying planets, worlds, and everything in it. It's his seva. Right? Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, in his commentaries in the 10th canto, says, why are the Braja Gopis better than Gyanis? Anyone know? Kirtan. They glorify Krishna. Right? Tava katam itam tapta jivanam kavi biriditam kalmasha apaham sravana mangalam srimaratatam bhuvi grananti te burida jana. Uddhava. Well, the first time Krishna sent message to Vrindavan, the gopis demonstrated they were superior to karmis. Other message from Uddhava, so they're superior to jnanis, yogis. They've sacrificed their autonomy. Right? In this sense, they are oblivious. They've not extinguished, annihilated their identity, but it's like self-oblivion, total absorption in serving Krishna, pleasing Krishna. That's the nature of Shakti, Hladini Shakti, to give pleasure, the pleasure-giving potency. We heard that a long time ago from Srila Prabhupada. And actually, the last line of his purport of his Bhagavad Gita, the very end, he said something, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, thus, like when everything's finally said and done, Jiva attains her normal position in the pleasure-giving potency. Atomic particles of Chit Shakti have, in essence, what the super servitors and the Swarup Shakti Radharani's group, following her suggestion. That's what Krishna consciousness is. If Guru is Radharani's delegation, then Guru is saying, are you ready to follow me and not your own? Means Radharani's suggestion as it's coming down in the Guru Parampara. So the idea of abstract meditation, to sit around in a lotus position, meditating on the soul. Rupa Goswami gives the example of devotee. What are they doing? They're meditating. They're making sweet rice. They're cooking, just like we do here. So this devotee in the Chinmoy world is making sweet rice and then thinks, and doing the whole process, and then thinks, oh, I better, before I offer it to Krishna, I should test it. So he touches it, and his thumb is burned and blistered in the spiritual realm. But here his thumb is blistered. It's some divine pastime to show Dhimahi, that real meditation is using one's intelligence to serve. Yashoda puts Krishna down from sucking her breast to go save the milk that's overflowing. And she's the Asraya Vigraha, Vatsalya Rasa. Krishna separating himself from his dearest devotees so that their hearts will generate superior substance, feelings, emotions. We hear in Chaitanya Charitamritam, what was it? Priya Jadiman Bhartsan, where Krishna saying that from his point of view, when a devotee in Sakyarasa thinks of themselves as his equal and challenges him, that's very inspiring. That gives him great happiness. And then he says, even more than that, when my beloved chastises me, it's so sweet and mind-stealing that I forget about the reverential hymns of the Vedas. Arjapatam Chihitva, the gopis, they went beyond that. Right? But then if we take that as a sincere statement, then we can understand, he's saying that's sweeter to him, that chastisement, why he may do something that provokes chastisement. You understand? So if he makes himself absent, then he can anticipate man. And that's sweeter to his ear. I mean, it's not, it's funny from one point of view. It's peculiar. Is there any other question? Yes.
According to Brahma Gayatri explanation,
Yeah.
we can see that Brahma Gayatri is take very high position.
Yeah.
Like sound of Krishna's flute and etc.
Yeah.
But from the other point of view, there is famous place in Sri Guru and His Grace when Srila Maharaj explains that Brahma Gayatri lead only to liberation stage. So why it's so?
Well, my immediate response to that is, as you say, Guru Maharaj, this is like hidden treasure, because it's Brahma Gudartha, like hidden meaning. This isn't obvious. So, like the Gita, the hidden treasure, those slokas, on a deep level interpretation, they're indicative of Madhura Rasa. But in the way they're generally understood is not wrong, but it's not that level of interpretation. So when he's speaking of what you say, he's actually paraphrasing the sloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is Krishna mantra hoite habe sangsara mochan. Krishna nama hoite habe Krishna racharan, which is very beautiful. Before Guru Maharaj told that, we didn't know how to read that. That's another point that's very important about the Vaishnava and Guru. We wouldn't, so many things we might not have seen, if we were lucky, for lifetimes. How many lifetimes we don't know. But the insight from the Vaishnava, achinoti yashastartam, the acharya, it's extracting the inner meaning, revealing, revelation. That's the best way. That's why the Bhagavatam is full of great sages inquiring about things. If you notice that, it's not just like the man in the street, I'm an ignorant man, can you help me out? It's not like that. It's, sages on Siddhaloka or Maharloka, they're inquiring from higher. Devotees like that. Narada and Vyas having a conversation. We're so privileged to be able to, by the grace of our Guru Varga, to be exposed to these things. Unthinkable conversations. So it says there, Krishna mantra, sangsara mochan. So Guru Maharaj will say that when it's mantra, and here by extension means mantra dika, mantras that have the name Krishna in them, and not Maha Mantra, but here just mantrams. Sangsara mochan, they'll liberate one. Because if we want to interpret it again, then we could say, oh, what about mukti arhit vanyata rupa, No, he's qualifying it. Sangsara mochan, liberation from the mundane. That's generally what we will take its effect to be. And then he's saying, and by contrast, he's saying, Krishna nama hoite habis, and Krishna nam, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that will take you to the lotus feet of Krishna. What are the lotus feet of Krishna? Means Radha Dasyam, where the serving group is. Radharani, Lalita Vishaka, Ruparati, etc. Whether it'll give you entrance into the positive serving domain. So he's making some contrast there and saying that it will be automatic. As Guru Maharaj again once said that, he said, we don't see pictures of gopis chanting japa. Right? But we do see pictures of them, they're like with the churning rod and milking cows and maybe collecting cow dung. They're doing all those kind of things. But you don't see them like they're doing yoga. In fact, they mock that idea that Ahushchite nalina nava padaravinde yogeshware hridi vichinta magada bodhai sangsara kupa patito taranavalam gehum jasham api manasi suryat sadhana. Saying, Krishna, we're not, what are we supposed to become gyanis or yogis? You're giving all these instructions about how we should learn to meditate on God. It's actually very funny. Krishna telling them, that's what you should do. If you're feeling sad, you should like take up yoga, go to Jamuna's class and learn how to do yoga, and then calm yourself down, and then start think God's in your heart. He's in everything. This is just making them angry that he's speaking like that, telling them like, or some gyan type ideas like, well, as fire is present in wood, the Supreme Lord is present in everything. You just have to learn the method to bring him out. And he's right in front of them saying these things. They don't appreciate it. But they do. We say they don't, meaning, this is where things get complicated, and we can only employ inversion to understand things. Otherwise, we're told devotees should be submissive, right? Sharanagati and all these things. Right? Then what are we told? What is Radharani's character? Bhamabhav. She's opposed to what Krishna wants. How does that work? I thought, if she's the supreme devotee, then she should be totally submissive to what we're told. No, that's a lower type, who are the submissive ones. She's not submissive. That's in the Hara Panchami and other places, descriptions like that. All very high and wonderful, but being told the leader, the ultimate absolute leader, is not easy and not submissive and not acquiescent to everything and coming with opposition. And what do we know from Krishna and Charitamritam and elsewhere? This is inspiring him, giving him great happiness. And the two focal points of Mahaprabhu, right? Krishna, Govinda. What is it saying? Every part of that Brahma Samhita, Govindam Adi Purusham, the original male, the original enjoyer. He knows everything about enjoyment. That person coming in connection with Srimati Radharani, that how powerful is her devotion? We can say it's awakened that tendency in Krishna. That's impossible. He's the supreme enjoyer. Everyone's his devotee. Right? Even what is saying, the Balaram chapter and Charitamritam, Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arsa Britya. And Baladev's also Britya, and happy that way. Sanatana Goswami Prabhu says, even when he does Rasa Leela in Vrindavan, it's an offering to Krishna from within his heart. Inconceivable, unthinkable things. But Krishna, now he wants to be a devotee, the supreme enjoyer. So do you think he would want to try something that's less enjoyable than what he normally does? For some reason. He would be attracted by something that's less enjoyable than being the supreme enjoyer. I don't know, I got some time on my hands. The yugas are overlapping, I don't know. Maybe try something different for a while. Being the supreme enjoyer is getting boring. It's just monotonous, never ending, ever expanding. Ugh. What are we thinking? The Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, as long as you live in the world of time and space, what is inconceivable? Just realize the infinite can make himself known to you if he chooses to. Don't try and approach this with your brain. Leave your brain at the door when you enter the room of this discussion. So anyway, that Krishna, it's awakened a tendency, his curiosity. That's very interesting. Aparam kasyapi pranay janabidasya kutuki. Kutuki means curious. Rasotstamam ritva madhuram upabhoktam kamapiya. Guru Maharaj said, stole the heart and halo. And I thought, did just Guru Maharaj say that? That's good enough, but I was just wondering. No, Rupa Goswami, ritva madhuram upabhoktam kamapiya. And that implies also, this is not something she's going to part with readily or easily. But once it's been done, it's very beautiful in the Saraswat Arati, that line, Mandahas, says, Radharani smiling a little bit to see Krishna as in that condition, mild smiling. She's opposed on some level, but once it's achieved, she's smiling, but worried whether Krishna can take it. She knows what it is like to be in that position, particularly in separation. Oh, and that's what I was going to say. Those two focal points. The meeting in Kurukshetra that's represented and celebrated in Rath Yatra. And the Brahmar Gita of Uddhava Darshani. One, when Uddhava comes to Vrindavan, right? And it's, tell them to go ahead. And they have to go somewhere else to talk. What are they called? Chitra Jalpa. 10 different types. Just go, they can talk, but in another place. So, in each instance, we can say, without trying to talk about high things that we shouldn't speak about and aren't qualified to talk about, we can say, they're upset. Let's just say that. Apparently. But that's where all those the most beautiful things are coming. Right? When Guru Maharaj was, Ban Maharaj had a bomb shelter in Vrindavan. Why, I don't know, but there was, Japan bombed India at one point, I think. Some historian may know. Anyway, he had a bomb shelter at his place in Vrindavan, and they went there. And Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, Ban Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj, and they had Guru Maharaj speak on the Brahmar Gita. Which was considered his specialty. And Babaji Maharaj noted he was especially pleased and happy to hear, and he said, and the highest talks in the lowest place, because they were subterranean at that point. But so that, it's a cliched saying, but really here applies, categorically different. Right? We're told in the Aslish Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Kripaya Tavapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrisham Vichintaya. The proper prayer is to pray for, to aspire to an atomic presence in that plane. But Guru Maharaj said, again, the Krishna Charan, the lotus feet of Krishna, once that's granted, then the soul's aspirations for service are virtually unlimited, right? So, just like I can't think of it. Kalo tad hari kirtanat. What is that? First line. Krishna. Oh. Mukta sangha parambrajet. What is that? Anyway. Krishna, well, there's Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pagastra Parsham Yagye Sankirtana Praye Yajanti Hi Sumedasa and Kriteya Dayatam Dwarpreva. I'm thinking of Mukta Sangha Parambrajet. That. So Mukta Sangha, liberation from the negative aspect and entrance into the positive service domain. Guru Maharaj said also, just of note, in mantram, why to prove why Nam is most important. I mean, the Nam is great because he said, if you remove Nam and insert another Nam, or you take out Krishna Nam and insert Shiva, then it goes to another place. The same mantram. Any other question?
About the prayers, it is said that the devotees...
Where is it said? I didn't hear the first thing you said.
Yes. Yeah, the real devotee serves and prays for Krishna Prem. But in one of the lectures from Srila Maharaj, he told that the prayers, when we are praying, we shouldn't even ask for the Lord to reveal Himself, unless it is because service necessity. So one is that we shouldn't pray for anything. I mean, then another is that we pray for the Krishna Prem. So how to harmonize?
Yeah, well then we understand. Why are they praying for that? So they can enjoy themselves? No. So Das Kori Beton Mori Deho Premadan. Their concept of prem is service. And as we told, Guru Maharaj uses this concept of compound interest, that by doing service, let's say some, as a consequence of that, some happiness is coming to the devotee to be experienced. Rather than experience that joy, their preference is to reinvest that and expand their serving capital. So now they can serve more. They want to serve more and more. But we can understand by analysis that the consequence of all this service is, the ecstasy that accompanies Krishna Prem. But that is not their target. It's not that they're serving, anticipating it being a pleasurable experience, that they'll get something for it, then that would be calculative devotion. Rather, Jiva Goswami says, Bhajaniya Sarva Sadguna Vishishta. How do you know really you're dealing with Krishna? When automatically, on account of Krishna's irresistible, inconceivable beauty, charm, and sweetness, you feel compelled to offer yourself to him. Right? Not to try and enjoy him like an object, or as Guru Maharaj would say, like a sweet ball. You put a sweet ball in and chew on it, and then all the juice, and you're very happy. Not to approach Krishna like that. Although he is sweetness personified. We're told when the Keshi demon, the horse, attacked Krishna, Krishna put his fist down his throat so that his arm was up to his mouth. And it is said that although Krishna, he's sweet, his body is very sweet, because Keshi was not a devotee, he couldn't appreciate the sweetness, and rather felt like a hot rod had been stuffed down his throat. That's Krishna appears in the world as so many avatars, incarnations, shows his divine form and his divine pastimes. But not everyone appreciates that. It's not an objective experience. It's subjective. What is their inner condition? What is the inner condition of their hearts to appreciate? That has to be there. Krishna Bhakti Janma Hoy Sadhu Sangha. But what is the other one? Krishna Bhakti Rasa Davitam Mati. Kriyatam Yadi Na Kutopi Na Labhyate. Tatra Molyam Janma Koti Sukritaya Na Labhyate. After 10 million births of doing the right thing, you won't get it. That's not the way. But lolium, the purchase price is lolium, genuine hankering, hunger. How to get that? As Guru Maharaj said, associate with the hungry. That will awaken hunger in you. That's Krishna Bhakti Janmamul Hoy Sadhu Sangha. Krishna Prema, same thing. Association. By association with superior devotees, this tendency will be awakened. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Bhakti alone can give rise to devotion, give birth to devotion. Otherwise, ahoitukiya pratyata, it's causeless. Oh, and irresistible. So we talk about that ecstasy. Those devotees, their first plan is to response is to resist, not to try and let me say. What's the word? Provoke? Promote, yeah. It's a word like that. If we say it's irresistible, then their first plan is to resist. And if it can be resisted, then they think this is not the real thing. But if it cannot be resisted, as Guru Maharaj told about Srila Saraswati Thakur, if any type of spiritual emotion is coming to him, he's suppressing that as far as possible. But then we hear when he's discussing the Das Goswami sloka from Bilapakusamanjali, Ashavare Amrita Sindhamayi Katanchit Kalo Mayati Gamita Kila Sampratam Hi Tam Chet Kripamayi Nidasa Shinaiva Kimme Prane Brajena Chabororu Bakarinapi. Guru said, he began wailing uncontrollably. The person who meticulously removes even a tear. When vibrating this sloka, he's wailing uncontrollably. And what is at the heart of the matter there? Service aspiration. That he's moved by. That sort of lamentation. Whether or not one will get the opportunity to serve. He's not thinking, oh, let me read some section of the books that'll make me very happy. He's compelled to offer himself in service. Atmani Vedan. Self-offering. Why is Radharani in the supreme position? How that? Aradhita. Her method is to offer herself and her extended self. All of her, that Brahma Samhita would say, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalavi. All these, just as Krishna has so many expansions and extensions for enjoyment position, she is expanding for service, to supply joy to Krishna. So all of those super servitors are extensions, expansions of Srimati Radharani. Although they have their own, it's inconceivable, achintya beda beda, they have their own individual personalities. But it's the spiritual world of service is a construct of her heart. How to please Krishna. The whole spiritual world, all of it. And the extension of that spiritual world in this world in the form of Krishna consciousness movement. So how did we get some connection with this? By the grace of our Guru Varga. Otherwise it's impossible. Janmakoti Sukritarna Labhyate. You won't get it after 10 million births. So 100 births doing perfectly Varnashram. Brahma. There can be Brahma. Right? Beyond that, Shivata. Position like unto Shiva, Shiva Loka. But not for Krishna Bhakti Rasa. Janmakoti Sukriti, 10 minutes, that's Sukriti won't take you there. Accumulated Sukriti may sprout as Shraddha, faith that leads one. Shraddha, Saru Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, etc. Swabhaktebhya Sudham Nija Bhajanam Mudram Upadishan. But only from the devotees and the Lord as a devotee. The absolute generously distributing himself, the most generous of the absolute distributing himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is it? Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurachase Namaha. And what is Mahaprabhu giving? That Krishna who is charmed by the supreme devotional mood of Srimati Radharani. He's giving what he thinks to be the ultimate best thing ever. Anarpita charim chirat kornavatirna kalo. That's what he wants to give. Not something less. Oh, these people are unqualified. Why waste this on them? Extending qualification. Knowing that by coming in connection with this substance, one will be transformed. What did Guru Maharaj say? That one devotee said to Mahaprabhu, he said, I heard about your Jarikhanda campaign. Meaning where he made elephants dance, and scream in ecstasy the holy name of Krishna. Tigers screaming the name of Krishna, dancing in ecstasy. Jai Srila Bhakti Vimal Avadut Maharaj. Ki! Now one man said to Guru Maharaj, or Guru Maharaj said, one man says to Mahaprabhu, I heard about your Jarikhanda campaign. Because he made the elephants. And what did Guru Maharaj say? The vibration Mahaprabhu made was so fine, it penetrated think of elephant, it's a modes of nature combo covering a particular jiva soul. Dense. Penetrating all of that, went right into the soul plane and awakened their swarup, came expressing outward from their hearts, they're taking the name. So the point being that if he could be that successful with animals, then there's some hope for us.
Actually, maybe not.
Yes, on that point, Guru Maharaj said, our position, what if we lament the position of others, he said, how lamentable is the position of someone who's come in connection with this, but doesn't appreciate it properly, fully. That could be us. It's one thing someone doesn't know, they didn't get, and we lament that. But to come and on some level, by the grace of Guru and the Vaishnavas, get some glimpse of an understanding. Prabhupada would sometimes call it causeless unwillingness. Not to surrender, not to serve. Causeless unwillingness. We don't know why. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, this Jarikhanda Leela of Mahaprabhu, observing by Haridas Thakur. Well, is that like kind of a experiment? Because we say sometimes Mahaprabhu, Yuga Avatar comes, he liberates people with Hare Krishna. What kind of liberation is that? Then when Mahaprabhu Radha Bhava Duty Subhalitam, how does that make difference? Does every Yuga Mahaprabhu does the Jarikhanda, or what kind of between Yuga Avatar Mahaprabhu and what's the difference?
Well, I can only say that Guru Maharaj said, Mahaprabhu appears in every Kali Yuga and does Nam Sankirtan. But he didn't go into the details, but if we apply Guru Maharaj's ontological method to that, it will always be based upon what is your concept of Krishna Nam, right? So, when that sloka we just mentioned, Anarpita Charim Chirat Karnavatirna Kalo, it says in there, he's giving what's never been given before. So then if we start with that, we'll say, oh, so what these other Mahaprabhus, he's coming every time, but why is Rupa Goswami saying he's given something that's never been given? Well, what's the difference? So it says, Unatodjvala Rasam Swabhakti Sriyam, this Ujjvala, this Madhura Rasa connection, that he's giving. Like if Guru Maharaj says Radha Dasyam, again, there'll be gradations of that, but something is implied by that also. All these things, and remember, implying things is the favored method of discussion and revelation, to imply. So, it's what, again, back to that point, what is it that charmed Mahaprabhu? I talked a little bit about this before you came. What are the two principal pastimes? Rath-yatra, which is celebrating what? When separation reaches its zenith in Kurukshetra. Remember, the enjoyer, he didn't come here, he's Krishna, the supreme enjoyer. He knows everything about enjoyment. So the thing, he's going to focus on the pastimes of enjoyment is not what we should conceive. We see these 2 points, the zenith of separation is in Kurukshetra, and that's what he celebrates in Rath-yatra. Think about 18 years or so, every year, and it's very intense. And we read what is described there, and it's extraordinary and inconceivable, yet this is in the public. So when he's chanting like Yak Kumara Hara, people don't know why. Rupa Goswami knows why, Srup Damodar knows why, Swarupa Viditam. But remember, they're really pure, simple-hearted Vaishnava. Whatever Mahaprabhu, it's all good, all wonderful. But the other focal point, Uddhava Darshan, the Brahmar Gita, the madness of Radharani, expressed to the bumblebee, the different types of Chitra Jalpa, like loving anger expressed toward Krishna. That's not in front of the chariot. That, where we talk, the Gangbir, behind closed doors, there's no windows. And there's no other devotees, there's just Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy with Mahaprabhu. And what are we told? 24 hours a day. This is in the very end, the last 12 years. It's the divine madness of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that's painful to even hear about. It's so intense. So Guru Maharaj referred to, before he goes to the interior, as his public service. Bahiranga Sangikore Nama Sankirtan, Antaranga Bhakta Kore Rasa Ashvadan. So he gives everyone the Nam Sankirtan, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but he's come for a particular reason. That's being extended to others. People are going to respond differently. But he is connecting them to that which he values to the highest degree. Right? Because one devotee shaking their head in astonishment after Guru Maharaj explained this in the most beautiful way, he's just like, why would he do this? And he said, now you understand the nature of Sri Chaitanya Avatar. He said, what should he do? Distribute some stone chips to everyone? Like I descended, give everybody a ruby. He said, no, what he considers to be he said, otherwise it wouldn't qualify as being the greatest magnanimity. So the greatest magnanimity would have to be the highest thing given to the lowest people, not a high thing giving to low people, but the highest thing, of which there's nothing higher, to the lowest people, of whom there are no and lower. That's Mahavaranaya avatar, and that's it seems inappropriate. It seems excessive. But so once in a day of Brahma, Mahaprabhu comes, and this is the situation, and that was in, cosmological time yesterday, a few days back, just before.
The question is here. In theistic evolution, according to Guru Maharaj from his book, we see Buddha, Madhvacharya, Shankaracharya, then Madhva, Ramanuja, Nimbaraka, Vishnu Swami, Mahaprabhu.
Yeah. So Guru Maharaj had a teacher who told him, that's the way you should go. First start with Buddha, then go to Shankara, and one of his teachers told him that. And Guru Maharaj said, yes, but Mahaprabhu didn't say that. Yeah. Mahaprabhu didn't say, first go to Buddha, then the Shankara.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful remark.
In fact, what did he say? Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Hoy Sarvanash.
Right, but going back to this evolution, so we know coming from zero, rejecting materialism up to 0 point, going to 3.5 rasa, in particular Acharya teachings, there would be some, like Guru Maharaj say, Ramanuja discovered Vaikuntha.
Yeah.
It's not like Vaikuntha wasn't existing. He just discovered this for this world of Kali Yuga. But then Mahaprabhu coming with his super...
My answer to you is, when I joined San Francisco, 1969-70, Jagannath Rath Yatra. That's where this is how you get your exposure. Suddenly Jagannath's going down the street. There's a kirtan, prasadam, Krishna Nam Sankirtan, Jagannath, and you're brought into something very rapidly. Saraswati Thakur's program is rapid, immersion. What is it? 3D, total immersion. Saraswati Thakur is the full dome program. Is jump, the so-called leap of faith. He's saying, because as Guru Maharaj said, Bhaktivinoda is saying, Grihe tako, bane tako, sada hari boli tako, nartam, grihe ba, bonite take, hago ranga boli take. Saraswati Thakur is saying, there's not enough time for that. Jump. Go for it. That's what Narada is telling Vyas. And I always thought, there's 10 slokas there that comprise Narada's Bhagavatam to Vyas. He's saying, he gives him the 10, you meditate on this and everything will come from that. Right? That's Narada leaves, Vyas, then the Bhagavatam comes out of him, he gives the Sukadev. But one of those, maybe the 4 or 5 slokas in, Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer, bhajan apako patetato yadi, apakva. Bhajan apakva. But what if you don't achieve, it doesn't become paka, ripe, bear fruit, and you go down. And I thought, why are they dealing with this? Right? Like in the 10 verses, 4 verses in, you're already dealing with someone came to this and they go down. Because it has to be dealt with. It's like the impossible of impossible things. And what is he saying? What is the answer to that? He's saying, it's better you try this immediately, give up everything and try this, than a lifetimes of anything else. What you will have got, even if you only last for a brief period, what you got during that period is of immeasurable value. You won't get that in hundreds of lifetimes. Now we understand, not only hundreds of lifetimes, do the math. Once in a day of Brahma, okay, that's 4,300,000,000 years. So just think of that. 4,300,000,000 years of doing something else won't give you what you'll get from this, by staying overnight in the ashram. Go to the Mangal Arati. Sing the name of Krishna. Take the prasadam. Our dog is more spiritually advanced than hundreds of millions of people. And he doesn't even have a spiritual name yet.
He's giving respect to devotees. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying, better to be a dog and Vaishnava.
Right. Vaishnava Thakur, Tomara Kukur. And Kita Janmaho Jata tu Adas Bahir Mukha Brahma Janme Nahias. Better to be an insect, here, in front of Giriraj Govardhan, than to be Brahma if your karma misra bhakti thing's not working out. It's all, about realizing very little time is here. Remember Gurudev's wall on veranda in Calcutta, the Shankaracharya slok he liked from the Mohamudgara Stotram, the hammer for Dina Jamino, day after day, sun's going, right, we're running out of time. So Saraswati Thakur's movement, we wouldn't be here if he didn't impress this upon his followers. If Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj decided to just hide, go into Nirjan Bhajan and their own internal culture, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Still, whatever way you can do it is fine, but we like the leap of faith. That's the Krishna consciousness movement that we know, really.
Coming back to the original topic of my question.
Yeah.
I mean, first half of it you cover very nicely, but second, so having all these great acharyas primarily talk about Vaikuntha and 1/3 of the rasa, and then Mahaprabhu revealing at Prayag to Rupa Goswami a full-fledged theism,
You know what Guru Maharaj said? He was in South India and he got a copy of the Bhavishya Purana. And there is these mysterious slokas saying that, and their names are slightly different. Jiva, Rupa's name, but it's indicating Rupa Goswami and has some very mysterious information there about Mahaprabhu, and says that Ramanuja and Madhva met with him, and they're saying what is this? Why are you, changing it? And then Mahaprabhu gives some mystical sloka, and they become pacified and ecstatic. So, and in Guru Maharaj's Bhaktivinoda Viraha Dasakam, forget the exact, but it ends in Mahatmya Simha Natat. Your glories don't stop there. What he's really saying there is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what you've given surpasses Madhva and Ramanuja. That's what he's saying. To say it another way is not as strong. That's what he's saying. What you've given has surpassed them. And that's on your point. When Guru Maharaj was challenged that what Saraswati Thakur is doing is not Vedic. And his response is, what are the Vedas? The statements of the rishis. And what are they presenting? Brahman, primarily, if you read the Upanishads. Some Paramatma, And he said, and a hint of Bhagavan. He said, and what are Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur giving? As you say, full-fledged theism. Not only Krishna conception and full, but Mahaprabhu's Krishna conception. Inconceivable. So what they're giving has exceeded, it surpassed the Vedas. Remember, the Vedas themselves, when they see the Rasa Leela, their minds, their Vedic minds are blown. And they pray that they can take birth as, they didn't know, that they feel bad. Like, why, we didn't spell this out clearly to the people. We only indicated we didn't know that this kind of treasure was there. And so they Veda Stuti, they get that opportunity in another life. Veda Stuti, personified Vedas, Dandakarana Rishis, and others. So how wonderful is that? Sometimes we're handling this high voltage we don't know what we're connected with. Because as I say, off the street, we run into the high, you enter the temple, the Hare Krishna temple, and you're dealing with the ultimate reality right away. Whether you're a scholar, whatever you are, a child or an insect. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama.